In the current era of microtransactions and loot boxes, as gamers, we have to deal with a lot of crap. We pay full price for a game, then it turns out to be mediocre, then they add microtransactions and loot boxes, and EA and 2K are putting ads in their games, and no matter how much noise we make, it seems like most publishers and developers don't really care. But every now and then, a studio comes along and makes a game that not only exceeds expectations in terms of the quality of gameplay and storytelling, but it goes even a step further. Ghost of Tsushima, developed by Sucker Punch and published by Sony, is that game. It was released on July 17th this year, and it was critically acclaimed and praised by the majority of the players. And I think the developers would have been perfectly satisfied to stop then and there and move on to other projects. But on October 16th, they released an update that not only made a lot of amazing quality of life changes in the game, but they added a new game plus, they added more skins that you can earn in-game through gameplay, they added more charms, and on top of all of that, they added an entirely new multiplayer game mode called Legends. And it's all free. And it feels weird to say that because I'm not used to saying that. I feel spoiled. This has got to be not only the best free update of all time, but it's gotta be one of the best updates of all time. Sucker Punch continues to outdo themselves, and it's very impressive what they're doing with this game. Now, do you remember that Avengers game that was released less than 2 months ago and it's already pretty much dead? I actually made a video talking about that game when it came out, and the best way to describe the Legends mode in Ghost of Tsushima is that it's Marvel's Avengers done right. The two games basically have the same formula, but one of them is executed horribly and the other one is executed perfectly, and the difference is night and day. Whatever the Avengers did wrong and whichever area it had problems in, the Legends mode excels at those areas. The Legends mode is a co-op experience divided into the story mode and the survival mode. The story mode consists of quick linear 2-player missions with objectives that you can complete with another person. The survival mode is kind of like a wave-based 4-player horde mode where you have to hold out and protect 3 different areas in the map against different kinds of enemies. And when you succeed, you get different kinds of gear that improve your ability to fight. And you have 4 different classes that you can choose from. They each have their own certain perks and abilities that you can utilize and mess around with. The samurai is the tank. He's supposed to be out there in the front lines getting up close and personal with the enemy. The hunter is kind of the opposite, and she specializes in ranged combat, and she's supposed to stay back and sort of thin out the herd with her bow and arrow. The ronin is the support character, and he's all about reviving and healing allies. And the assassin is all about stealth. And there is enough diversity in the classes that you're gonna want to try all of them, because if you don't, you're probably gonna miss out. Okay, now let's talk about the gear system. First of all, let me say this, there are many reasons why the loot system in this game is much superior than the loot system in Marvel's Avengers. But the 2 most important reasons are, 1, you don't have to actually pick up the loot. The game just gives it to you after you finish a game. You don't have to go on a pointless fetch quest and run around the map and pick up gear. And 2, the gear matters. They actually make a difference, and you can see and feel said difference during the game. That was a huge problem in Marvel's Avengers. The whole game was centered around gear, and they didn't even make that much of a difference. So it all felt pointless, and it felt like you were grinding endlessly and not getting anywhere. Which brings me to my next point, which is the grind in this game is actually fun. And that's because of 2 reasons. 1, because the game doesn't have microtransactions, the progression is not designed to accommodate a microtransaction system, meaning the progression system and the grind is not designed to frustrate you and make you give up. Therefore, it's actually fun. And 2, the gameplay itself is fun. And the gameplay is fun because the combat system is designed so well. The progression system and gear are fun to grind for, and that's very important in a multiplayer game. You want to keep playing and you want to keep unlocking things. Now, another complaint I had with Marvel's Avengers is that you had to keep leveling up and increasing the power level on your character. But as you were doing that, the missions would adjust their difficulty level to match your power level, which means you never ever felt any more powerful than you were before. And again, in Legends, that problem is taken care of. Each mission has a bronze, silver, and gold difficulty, and they each have a set power level, or as it's called in this game, a key level. and when you level up your ki, you actually feel more powerful. It's just crazy how many parallels there are between these two games, and it's kind of like a to-do and not to-do list for video games of this particular genre. Now let's talk about the gameplay. The combat is a little different than it is in the base game. The sword fighting is pretty much the same, and no matter what class you pick, the basis of the sword fights are still the same. Now, when I'm talking about combat and gameplay, I'm gonna focus mostly on survival, because in order for you to experience the full potential of this game, you have to play the survival mode. That's when this game is at its most fun, and that's mainly because the gameplay can significantly change depending on which class you pick and which class your teammates pick, because diversity of class in your whole team matters so much, and that's why it's so much fun to play around with different classes, because they're all so different that your experience is going to be different every time you play a different class. And the best way to play this game is to play each class to their strengths. You shouldn't rebel against that, because each class is great when they're doing what they're supposed to do. But also, depending on the type of gear you have, you can do certain builds for each class and play a certain way, and when you get different gear, you can completely switch it up and your experience is going to be different again. And that's what makes the grind fun. You want to play around with different classes and with different gear, and you want to try out different builds, and every time you unlock a new piece of gear, it's gonna change the gameplay again, and that's what keeps it fresh. That's the gameplay loop, and that's why you're not gonna feel like you're just working towards nothing. It feels rewarding, and it feels like an accomplishment to unlock different gear. The gear system and the combat system work so well together because gear can affect and change the combat so much. For example, you can do a fire build for the Ronin and make it so that his ghost weapons set the enemies on fire, and you can use perks that buff the overall fire damage, and you can use your ultimate ability to set the enemies on fire, and since your abilities and your ghost weapons work on a cooldown, you can alternate between each one and use that overall fire damage to kill the enemies faster. Or you can have a headshot build for the hunter where you do crazy headshot damage, or you can do a hallucination build for the assassin and turn the enemies against each other before they even reach you. You can do a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of fun. And one of the things I have to mention about the combat is that in survival mode, it gets very chaotic. But it's contained chaos. It's controlled chaos. You never feel like there's too much happening to the point that it's no longer fun. And the game gives you enough abilities to be able to crowd control that it's hard to get to that point of no return when there's just too much happening at the same time. And again, that was a big problem with Marvel's Avengers. You were fighting so many enemies at the same time, and they were all so spongy, and at the same time you're getting shot at from off screen, and the dodging mechanic is garbage, and the whole experience is miserable. In this game, yes, it does get chaotic, but it's still fun because everything you do still makes a difference. The enemies still react to getting hit by you, and the combat is excellent, except in Nightmare Survival. That shit sucks. And it's not as much fun, and it's not because it's more difficult, it's because the enemies are spongy, and they don't react to anything you do, and the archers teleport, and there's fire spirits raining down on you every 2 seconds. It feels a little obnoxious. They gotta tone it down just a little bit. Like the other day, I was just trying to buy ammo in between the rounds, and I couldn't because I kept getting shot at. The fire arrows are just a little too much. They're a little unfair at the moment. And the enemies in Nightmare Survival are not great, but even then, it's still not that bad. However, I think because it takes so much longer to complete the Nightmare Survival, you should get more loot after completing it, and I think you should get more loot after completing any survival mission in general. It just feels like you don't get quite enough. And one more very small nitpick I have is that the game has 3 different currencies that you use to reforge your gear and reroll the properties and the stats on the gear. You have shrines, honor, and essence. And earning essence and shrines is really not that difficult, but earning honor seems extremely difficult. You need 100 honor to reforge a single piece of gear, and if you play the story mode on gold difficulty, you get about 60 of them, and it's just not nearly enough. But other than that, it's great. Another thing this game does right is how simple the communication system is. First of all, the story mode objectives are so simple that you could play with the dumbest person alive and you could still beat the mission. The game encourages you to work with one another and cooperate with your teammates, and the thing I love about this game is that cooperating is so easy and effortless that you don't need to have a mic to play this game at all, because you can easily communicate with your teammates and they're gonna gonna understand you. For example, you can ping a location or an enemy to signal to your teammate that that's where you need to go. And it might be a small thing, but it's very important because you use it so much. And if it wasn't there, the experience of having to play with another person who might or might not know what to do would be awful. And I also like the fact that you can thank your teammates whenever they revive you or heal you or do something right. It's nice to be able to be polite and thank your teammates when they save your ass. It's just jarring that we have companies that charge full price for live service multiplayer games with microtransactions, and this free multiplayer game mode is by far better than any of those games. So thank you, Sucker Punch, for going above and beyond. You deserve all the praise you get. I played the base game when it came out and it was so good that I actually played it for a second time. And after my second playthrough, I was pretty much done with the game and I was glad that I had played it. What I didn't expect was for them to release a free update and completely hook me back in as if it was a new title release, because that's how exciting it is. It's like playing an entirely new game. This game mode is incredible. I highly recommend it. It's very addicting, and if you have a PS4 and you don't have Ghost of Tsushima, then what the fuck is wrong with you? And if you don't have a PS4, buy a PS4 and play this fucking game because it's fucking amazing. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go and play some more Ghost of Tsushima.